Thank you so much for inviting me out. Joanne called, I think, several months ago and wanted the opportunity to bring Frank out and find out a little more about him and where the county plans to go in the next few years for a road plan. I want to say hi to my fellow commissioners, Commissioner Nixon Phillips and former Commissioner Sharon Emmert here, and many friends. I see several people that are at our meetings every week, so I get to know them quite well. But thank you so much for allowing us. I want to introduce you to Frank. I happen to have been fortunate enough to grow up with Frank. We're both from Nacogdoches. He's 2 years older than me, Frank. You're closer to my sister. 3, yeah. And well, we've known each other a long, long time, and the county had looked for an engineer for quite a while. And what you get a lot of times are people that are right out of college that you may have the education but not the skill set for the job and the huge undertaking he is to be a county engineer. So I'll let Frank go into all that. But I just want to tell you, he joined us on July 7th of last year. He came to Smith County with 23 years of professional engineering and surveying experience, including 11 years as a city engineer and director of public works here in Tyler, Waxahachie, and DeSoto. I happen to have served under Mr. Ernie Clark on the city council. I was on the city council. Ernie was the city manager, and Frank was with us there professionally. It's the first time I'd ever had the opportunity to work with him. His civil engineering experience includes areas of aviation, streets, roadway, drainage, downtown parks, development, wastewater collection systems, transmission, distribution systems, pump station, and water storage facilities, which is right now pretty much everything in the county. I think we hired Frank in July 7th. I think it's rained every day since then, but Frank just recently retired March 15th after 27 years as a naval reservist. He's commander of the Naval Civil Engineering Corps. He served in Iraq and Afghanistan supporting coalition forces, building roads, bridges, schools, water treatment facilities, and all the other things that are pertaining to the infrastructure there. Frank also has worked as an engineer for the Texas Department of Transportation as a project manager and with his own engineering firm. He is responsible for planning, design, consulting, management, private development, and public works. I also have to say, Frank and I go to church together. I teach 2-year-old Sunday schools. My wife and I do. Frank's head of the deacons. So you can see that the cream really does rise to the top. But I'm so happy that he joined us. And after everybody that we got to talk to and interview, I feel like we were truly blessed to bring Frank on board. And I hope he's here a long, long time for us.
Thank you, Jeff. It's a pleasure to be here to give you some information on what the Road and Bridge Department does. I do want to beg your forgiveness because I got a scratchy throat, so I may cough or just go hoarse on you for a little bit. But just being out in the weather this week, taking care of things has just been kind of taking a toll on myself. But I'm honored to work for Smith County. I do a lot of my career has been in public works, either actually working for a city or for government entity, or in my consulting aspect, working a lot of times with cities. Most of the time I've worked with cities and counties and states, so and I'm very familiar with maintenance programs and like that. I want to give you some information on what Road and Bridge does, kind of give you where we are on that, what we are facing, and then also what the court has already started is doing a study and where we're going to go from there with information that we get from this study on our roadways. First, give you a little information on it's not working. You can just advance it from there. I'll just tell you when to do it. This just kind of gives you the little information on the road and bridge, what we have. We have over 1,170 miles of county roads, and that's anywhere from a little one-lane road, or we've got some dirt roads out there too, but anywhere from there to we have some that are 4-lane, but very few on those, but most of them are 2-lane. 1,170 miles, that is the distance between here and Phoenix, Arizona. That's the distance that we have within the county. And you see it break down between the precincts. Precinct 3 has the most miles, and that's Commissioner Phillips. We have 140 bridges. What's designated as a bridge is 20 foot or longer. We have 140 of those, and 5,280 cross structures. That can be a small wooden bridge, or it could be a culvert, or either concrete, metal culvert, and those range from anywhere from 36 to, we've got some that are 14 foot in the diameter, so they're pretty large culverts, and they're basically a bridge themselves. But we have to maintain those and look over those. We work with TxDOT on some of the bridge projects, and I've got some pictures to show you on some of those. This is just kind of give you how Smith County compares to the other counties. I need that pointer, please. Oh man, I got one. I have a pointer. But anyway, this is of all the counties in Texas, Smith County ranks 10th in the total miles within the county. The first one's Harris. Of course, that's Houston. Then you got Montgomery County, which is the Woodlands and Conroe area. Williamson is Round Rock, Georgetown. Hidalgo is McAllen. Hale, and then also if you jump down to 9, those are two very rural counties. You look at the population. There's population 14,000 there, and 36. So it's a very small in population. But those two counties are up there by Lubbock. They're adjacent to them, so it's primarily agricultural. And that's every half mile to a mile. There's a road, a grid work up there. So that's why there's so many miles of road in those two areas. Primarily, those roads are gravel roads, so it's a little easier to maintain. You put a maintainer out there, a motor grader to blade and add gravel when you need to. So those are primarily rural areas. Grayson County, number 6, that's Sherman, Denison. Fort Bend, that's Sugar Land and Rosenberg, just outside of Houston. And then Travis County is Austin. And then Smith County is the 10th largest county in the state as far as road miles. This is this year's budget for Road and Bridge. The administrative, that's myself and ladies in our office. I've got a road administrator that helps me as far as overseeing all the projects. Labor division, that is the basically road and bridge crew. Those are the ones who are out there fixing the potholes, putting culverts in. When we do a road project, that's where we draw our crew from. So we have 61 personnel for the entire county. And then that's 61 allocated. Right now we're not at full staff, so we're about 57 or 58 as far as staffing right now. The equipment is our shop. We maintain all the vehicles and equipment countywide. Sheriff's Department vehicles, from road and bridge, construction equipment, so we maintain all that for the county. And so our total road and bridge is about $11,600,000 for the budget for this year. Doing a breakdown of just the labor portion as far as construction area, not including personnel, but we have you can see the allocations on that, $593,000 for road oil, and that is for where we go out and rebuild a lot of these rural county roads using road oil and either the dirt there, or we'll add some sand to the mix too. The seal coat, that is done through a contractor. We contract that every year. That is just putting a seal coat, kind of like what TxDOT does on their roads. We have a current budget of $1 million for asphalt, and that includes our patching and our overlays. Any work that we do of any road improvements or where we got to do repairs, but all our patching comes out of that at this time. And this year we're almost halfway spent, and we have not done any overlays. It's been strictly patching. We've had washouts where we had to go back there and rebuild the road, where roads washed out or culverts washed out, and so we have to put the surface back in that. We have culverts of $80,000, bridge materials $48,000, and then there's also included in this year's was a special road project of $2.9 million. That was put there by the court during last year's budget process. This is, and I'll get into it a little bit further, we have that study coming up, and this is to kind of give us a kickstart so that we're not waiting another budget year to have some money to allocate toward that that road study and the projects we'll be doing there. This is just a breakdown of where the road and bridge fund comes from. We've got them from property taxes, about 43% of the money we have is property tax. About 35 is from fines and fees, and those are the two major contributors to the road and bridge fund. There are some transfers, which included that 2.9 million. So you can see where the funding comes from in this area. How it compares to the rest of the county, you can show that the road and bridge is like 13.4%. If you look at the juvenile, the corrections, the law enforcement, and judicial slices of the pie, those total about 59.8%. So roughly 60% of the budget goes to those four areas of the county. Those are areas we can't do without because we're entrusted with enforcing the laws and taking care of the offenders and the due process and the jury and judging and courts and everything. So those are areas that we can't do without. But look at how we compare, how Road and Bridge compares to the rest of the county. It's a good sized piece, but we can always use more. As you can see, what some of the projects some funding we have on that. Just to show you some pictures, this is the tops of roadways. We got anywhere from a good right of way. This is kind of almost an FM standard. We have residential, curb and gutter. We have some subdivisions. We have more rural subdivisions where they're not curb and gutter, but they still have the bar ditches. We maintain those. We have country roads that have the ditches like that. And then we also have county roads that there's very little right of way. There's no place to put a ditch. The road becomes the drainage, and so we have to deal with that. And then this season right now, we're dealing with it continually every day. We have the edges of the road wash out. We have potholes. We have culverts wash out along these roadways too. Some of the other issues we work with. This is one of our county roads. We have 6 inches of mud on this roadway, and there's actually a pavement underneath the roadway. But this is due to logging operations. The logger just was driving in and out and just bringing out mud in the rain. We shut them down on this day, and so we can clean. He had to clean the road up for us, and we had to maintain it. We kept an eye on that. We still need to go back and redo some work on that road, rebuild it to bring it back up to standards. And we'll address with these improvements to that logging company. But sometimes we don't know they're operating in an area, so we don't find out what's happening until after they've gone, and then we go out there and see the roads torn up. And there's no recourse to go back and get them. So if we catch them not necessarily in the act, I don't mean it that way, but if we find them out there working, we'll approach them. And most of them are very good about helping us. We usually bill them just for the materials cost of rebuilding a road. The labor is part of the county's budget, so we don't bill for the labor, just mostly for the materials for rebuilding the roadway. We deal with culvert washouts. This was County Road 118 about 2 months ago. When we had the heavy rain, it washed out at night. Luckily, the driver of this car got out of the vehicle before it fell in. He said the road was kind of moving, so he got out. But this was the situation. This was a pipe that actually was 2 pipes they were 12-foot diameter pipes, and we had to replace those. This is a result. This is County Road 42. This is the result of excuse me, the rains we had over the weekend. Roadway is still there, but it washed out the pipe underneath it, and you can see the space all the way through. This was another one up this 496 up close to Lindale. There was actually 2 pipes there, and they were washed out. Both of them collapsed, and just water had been going over the roadway in this location. So we're replacing those, and there again we have to dig out everything, replace it, and put, patch the road back to where it was. So at that, this is actually an old, this is 3107, northeast part of the county. This is the old, actually the old TxDOT highway. Behind me, as I was taking that picture, there's a lake behind there, and their spillway had washed a little bit, so it got down low, and it basically washed underneath the culvert. So we were losing a perfectly good culvert there because of the being undermined on there. That water flows all the way across the road underneath that concrete culvert. So we're going to replace that at a cost, and then the necessary road repairs. This is one of our bridges. It's an old wooden bridge on a county road. This one, we have to deal with weight limits, and we have to repair them, replace them. This one only has a 10,000 pound total limit for the vehicle crossing that. I was sitting there and I saw a truck pulling cattle across it when I took that picture. So it's not everybody abides by the weight limits on the roads. As I said, we do have TxDOT does assist the county with bridge replacement. This is a bridge replacement program, or bridge replacement this year. That's up on County Road 448 in the northwest part of the county. When they go in with a concrete bridge and replace everything, have a contractor. We actually have a contractor that's fixing to start this next week, replacing 2 other bridges, and then about every 2 years we get a series of bridges that will be replaced. I think we have 3 more in the next set of bridges that will be replaced, but we have 2 that's coming up. And then we also are capable of replacing some of our own county bridges. This is our work crew. This is on County Road 2125. This was actually opened up last week, right before the rains like that. This is down there at White House. It replaced a substandard bridge, a load zone bridge. So now it meets the standards, and it'll not be classified as a weight limit bridge. And just that kind of ends what my information for, to kind of let you know what we do. But one thing that we talked about, the court contract with Atkins International. It's an engineering firm, and they are doing an evaluation of all 1,170 miles of roadways in the county. And we're assisting them. We did a lot of the actual legwork or the field observations. We drove every road. We did an evaluation on those, rated those. Atkins is going to take that information, or has taken that information. They're preparing a report and a program so that when they come back in about 3-4 weeks, they're going to present to the court their findings. The result of this study is that they're going to set up, basically establish a capital improvement program for the county as far as what the cost would be and where we need to go from there. The court's already stepped up, and they're going to have they're appointing an advisory committee to look at that report after it's presented and start setting up not necessarily a priority list, but what can we adjust, or what can we accomplish right now with the funds we have, the 2.9 that's already in the budget. Which projects can we best best use and get the best bang out of the buck for that 2.9. And then the court will have to look at that as far as funding in the future, how that's going to be funded, and that's, I can make recommendations, but it's going to be up to the court to make that decision on how to fund this. So.
Okay. As Frank mentioned, once we engaged Atkins last year, we made turn the clock back about 5 or 6 years. As you know, we went into maintenance on it because the economy fell. Drastically affected the budget in Smith County. We had to make some really, really hard choices in personnel. Also along the lines of benefits for our employees, we restructured that. Got a lot of people that were really, really unhappy with us that are employees at the county. The benefit of that has shown itself now, though, that our reserve has built up significantly. So out of that, we took almost $3 million to apply to the road projects this year, and have paid for about $3 million worth of needed software, Odyssey, and things like from bookend all the way to through the judicial system that had been lingering for about 15 years, couldn't take care of. So we were able to put some of those things on the back burner. As you know, the jail project now is wrapped up. That's the only indebtedness that the county has, in fact, and it's, I think, paid down to 9 years. The project turned out really, really well. There's a group from Louisiana coming to look at our facility, particularly the bookend, the kitchen, laundry, video visitation in just this next week. I got an email from the architect this morning. So I feel certain, not speaking for the entire court, but I think I know their intention that from this point moving forward, there's a lot of things we're going to be working on, but the emphasis will be on tackling our road issue in Smith County. Now, I would suppose that we've got enough in reserve that the commissioners and the judge will look significantly at making another large capital outlay this year just out of our reserves. We've got a healthy reserve, we're fine, and that doesn't take borrowing any money, it doesn't take doing any bonds or anything, that we can put another substantial amount into that this year. So Frank will have 2 years worth of work that he can get some, some contractors in to make some major improvements. We're active now in the Tyler area MPO. For people that don't know really what that is, you work, all your monies either come through the federal government or pretty much through TxDOT for planning. If you don't have the plan developed, you don't get the money. Counties historically, in Smith County, has much done that. If you don't have the plan ready to implement, they just pass you by because the money comes ready to be let. And so we're working actively and have now for 3 or 4 years and are getting that money on things like Jacksonville. You see the state developing the Jacksonville widening project. But if one of the first slides Frank showed, if you looked at the top 10 most roads in the Smith County, we're so far below all the others. Several of them had $1 billion debts. The nearest one, too, I think is like 60-some odd $1 million debt. We have almost no debt related to the road, and that's good, and I hope we can continue down that line. That's something for the voters. But if we develop a really good plan, we have a good engineer, we're going to meet our needs. We're blessed. Our economy is really, really good. Smith County people are wanting to move here. We have a very pro-business commissioners court and are out actively bringing people to Smith County. We're one of the fastest growing counties in Texas. Now, along with that, it's a double-edged sword. They move in and build a nice subdivision out on a road that was designed to carry 30 cars. Now it's carrying, 150 houses supporting that, plus of the trash trucks, school buses, everything that's related, not even counting the construction of it. So then they start calling about 2 years later because the road's in terrible shape. Well, because that road was built maybe in the 30s or 40s with a base that was never designed to carry that kind of residential traffic. You got major roads, and Frank may want to talk about that, some that are arterials, and I know each commissioner has them, but Greenbrier Road, Lake Placid's a good example. Those are major thoroughfares now, and you've got tens of thousands of people. As you know, we're growing faster outside the city limits of Tyler than in the city limits of Tyler. Lindale's a faster growing community, so is Bullard and White House. So people are moving out, which is not uncommon as your population grows. There's school district issues, all kinds of things that influence that. But luckily there's growth all over the county, and so with the growth in that tax base, hopefully we can address these issues as they go. So I have a few other things I'll touch on after we take some questions, perhaps. Or would you really go do that?
I'm ready.
Okay.
Gotta say, you all have piqued interest. I haven't had this many questions in a long time. Am I on?
Hello? Yes, I am now. When is the county going to be able to overlay roads instead of quick patching them?
Technical question.
That's the intent of that study, is to set up a plan, it's a capital improvement plan. We'll never stop patching roads, because we need to do that so that we can at least have them in good shape, so we can get to where we can get to doing overlays and doing improvements, widening and like that. So a lot of that's going to be determined, in this plan, but it's going to take funding to do that. And that's going to be the major hurdle that we have to face is the funding to do it.
And Frank, but some will start this summer.
Yes.
I mean, there will be overlays going on this summer, and we're going to contract that out. So Frank and I mean, I'm speaking as if I'm county engineer, I'm not, but I know it's planned. You might elaborate a little bit on your direction with that.
Yeah, move ahead. In this slide here at the bottom of that 2.9 million, that's for special road projects. Like I said, that was an amount that was put in by the court to kind of give us a head start after we get the report back from the engineering firm and the capital improvement program. This is a funds that will be used to kind of kickstart that capital improvement program. Those funds, I see that being more as through contracts. I don't really see road and bridge crews, county crews actually doing a lot of that work because we're already going to be involved in road oil rebuilds and in some of the other. We do have some overlays that we have to do in-house for any kind of grant matching funds. We have to do that so that we can have a matching amount, which is our labor. And so we will be doing some asphalt overlays in-house, but the majority of that 2.9 million will be through contracts that we'll bid out to different contractors, and most of that will probably be overlays along those lines, and not just major roads. We'll be doing some collectors for some of these subdivisions, but also maybe doing some subdivisions themselves that need to be maintained and overlaid at that time. So that 2.9 is going to be primarily going to be contracts, and then I see the majority of the funding in the future will be earmarked for contracting so that contractors can do it, because I can only put one crew out there on to either an overlay or a road build, whereas I can have 4 or 5 different contractors out there working, overlaying and rebuilding roads, widening and doing improvements to the roads.
Please bear with me if you think I'm asking the same question twice. We ask all questions. Have you been able to get the cartograph system fully implemented so that you can use it as a tool to help you plan preventive maintenance and also compare the long-term cost of delaying road reconstruction in favor of patching?
The quick answer is no. We haven't got that in full gear yet. We're still working on that. Part of the engineering study does have a program, a computer program that will be part of that study it's purchased as part of the engineering design and design contract. And that program will do similar things to the cartograph, but what it does is that when we do, it gives us the projects, the ranking on the roads. Once we do an improvement to a road, we can go back in there and update that program, and it'll recalculate everything and see what where it ranks and like that, and of course put it down. But that program also has the costs that are associated with it, which we can adjust every year or as time because of inflation and the cost of construction. So we can change those numbers as the year goes up, as they go through the seasons or through several years. But that new program will provide us guideline as far as cost, but also as far as what the priorities would be for those roadways. But we would continually update that program, and that would provide us the information.
Do we keep current searchable records on 1, repeat repairs, mapped, cause, technical, and scope of repair, and 2, accident, incidents, and causes? How much is spent on studies? On a project, on calls out for patching or for doing a pavement repair or cleaning a ditch, our work order system does keep track of that. We don't have a map that's tied to that, so we really just can't pull it up on a map, but we can pull up a county road and look at the work orders that were submitted for that I think we go back 10 years or however long we've had the cartograph system does do that. It allows you to go back and look at a particular road and call it up. You can see who, the work order even says who calls them in, what the complaint was, and what when it was completed, the repairs were completed or patching or whatever we did to that. And we also include that whenever we do an overlay or replace a culvert or something like that, we'll put that in there. It's all activities that we do are handled through a work order. So, and it's applied to that county road.
And I would like to add that we use that a lot as commissioners, because people call and say, I've called in 15 times. Well, I know you probably think you may have, but sometimes you haven't really called in 15 times, because we can pull it up and we can look and see exactly when somebody called in, the last time it's worked, who worked on it. And that's a big benefit for us, even though we're not, we're a unit system, but we do have to obviously take an awful lot of the calls that come in, but particularly in the maintenance mode we've been in, the maintenance work has improved, no doubt about it, in the last few years. Up until about the last 6 months, since you can't make asphalt if your sand's not dry, so the plant doesn't even run. So they're making temporary repairs, just trying to hold out till summer ever gets here. But we do use that tool and find it beneficial. Also, by the way, you have Click It, Fix It. I don't know if you've ever used that or not, but you can use your smartphone. You can take a picture of a pothole you might want to talk about, and it gets registered that quick for the call out or washout or whatever the case may be.
Brave statement.
Yeah. Well, it goes
But
in
I think
quick.
that's good.
They really are. Stephanie and them are
Yes.
excellent over there.
Are there any plans to upgrade Lake Placid Road, County Road 1113? If yes, what do they plan to do and what is the timetable?
Yes, we do plan on improving that. That's I use a lot of times when I'm talking about examples of roads that need to be improved. I have an idea what we need to do in that area, but there's not really anything set. I'm waiting for the study from when we complete the study with Atkins. That's part of their evaluation, is they're going to look at that, which roads, and we look at traffic volume, how many vehicles a day they go on these roadways, and we'll look at that. And so I look at that Lake Placid as being one that we will widen. It may not be very much. We may only widen it 4 or 5 feet on total. And then we got some bridges that are going to be replaced, and some of those are actually going to be replaced through the TxDOT BRNSAP program. Maybe look at some of the major intersections, kind of like with Greenbrier. That's a 4-way stop. It probably still remain, but have maybe some right turn lanes or a left turn lane incorporated in the improvements. But on those roads like Lake Placid, because of the volume of traffic, we need to widen those, provide a little bit of a shoulder, or give you a little bit more room so that you feel more comfortable driving down it. I think the speed limit's 45 or 50 for portions of that, and it needs to be a little wider road. So that is something that will be. There are plans for that, but we don't have it in stone yet. That's still going to be coming out of the project. That is going to be a project that it in itself could probably take the $2.9 million plus some, just for the full length of that one road. So we got to look at all of that. Even do we need to do it in phases, or do we do it once, or how we approach it? Because we got roads just like Lake Placid all through the county and all the precincts. So we got to look at all of those.
Patty, the previous question wasn't fully answered.
I'm sorry, which one was that? The second one.
The one regarding Lake Placid,
No.
Before that.
current searchable records? What
Oh,
would you
I
like
know
to
the
know?
part.
That's
You're
part
talking
of the
about like accidents. I remember there was some question about accidents.
Yeah, there was a question about whether accidents are plotted with their causes, because I remember in the last election, there were charges made that the roads were
Wait a minute,
causing
Matt.
accidents.
Mhm.
So everybody can
I'm
hear.
not familiar with that, because you've got a lot of,
No,
people that
I
respond
wanna put it
to
down.
accidents. I suppose, the Road and Bridge Department might know, man, I don't know that. I've never seen that data come to us as far as, this particular road has.
That was really part and parcel of the question, is whether there is a plot where accidents or not only where accidents happen, but whether there is a cause related to the roads. And,
And maybe the other commissioner might know. I don't know of one. I mean, now the records as far as service, or if there's a washout and people have gone in there, we would know that. Do you know something, Kerry, on that?
That was brought up, I think, when I ran,
This is Commissioner Nix.
my opponent brought that up, that there was several accidents were caused by the county roads. I went and got DPS to look into that. There was no substantiated evidence that the road caused those accidents.
Yeah. And Kerry, we do have, like, people will blow a tire, hit a bad pothole, happens in the city all the time, messes up their car. I understand that. Governmental exemption, you can't be responsible for those type of accidents. That's just the way the law, that's the way it's written in Austin. But as far as and I didn't know of any, so, you know, like DPS would have to somehow send that to us, because they would go out to most vehicle accidents, I guess we're talking about. Even in the insurance business all these years, I don't know of a particular study on one. Now, we do have some areas that I'd like to put right-hand turn lanes, so people aren't backed up, you know, trying to get onto other roads, but as far as the accident count, I've not ever seen one.
I do have a question that I will not be asking because it does fall under the investigation, so please respect that these gentlemen cannot discuss it, and therefore I will not be asking this question. What progress have you made on preparing a written standard operational procedure or guidance, SOP/SOG manual, for the Road and Bridge Department? Do you believe the department needs one?
As far as progress on the SOP, I have not made a final standard operation procedures for a lot of that. I do have some that were just kind of internal policies on some of our construction techniques. I'm actually changing some for this summer's road rebuild program. We're going to look at it from what they did last year. So it's a work in progress, and some of that is just on the job verification. Is this the right way to use it, or is this the proper way to do it? So, like I say, I'm looking at our in particular our road dirt rebuilds, what they've done, you know, the procedures of how they did it in the past last few years. I'm implementing a different procedure so we can see how that works this year, because I think we can do, given the same amount of time, that we could increase the number of miles that we rebuild. There's some other policies that I'm looking at, or procedures, I would say, that on how when we overlay a road, what we need to do to it before we overlay, because in some cases we've in the past and just overlay a road, but not really address the subgrade of the base of the roadway, but address those issues prior to any overlay, so that we don't have a base failure that will affect the new pavement. But the short answer is it's a work in progress. I don't have anything definite as SOPs, but it is a work in progress.
What is the single most effective change you have made in the department?
I would agree, and I want to give, and I'm not answering for him, but I want to tell you, of course, he's just been here 10 months, but the attitude of the department, the leadership, it has greatly stepped up. Not only the fact that he works, you know, with all our mechanic people and blue-collar workers and those, because that's very important, you got to lead them, but also at the meetings that I sit in when he is dealing with TxDOT, because they are our partner. We're a subdivision of the state. We have to follow the state rules. One thing that comes to mind is our teams have been pretty entrenched with the same department heads for a long time, or crew leaders, or whatever you call them. Frank took the initiative and it had changed that, shifted them, much to the dismay of some people at the county. But you do get comfortable. It's like us, you know. Normally when an accident happens, because we get too comfortable with something, I mean, lax in judgment. And so that's something that, as a commissioner, I thought, you know, he could have left that alone and not rock the boat, not made anybody unhappy and stuff, but he did that several months ago, 5 months ago or so.
Basically, we break the county up into 4 areas, and we have foremen for each of those areas, and I just took those foremen and reassigned them to a different area. For one thing, is just kind of give them some new eyes on some existing roads, but also the crews had to respond. They get comfortable working with the same people, but have the crews working with a new advisor, a supervisor, and kind of, so it affects everybody across the board on that. And it's just kind of, not really shake things up, but just kind of give some different perspective to some of the same problems. Make sure that they didn't just keep on doing the same thing, but just kind of give some eyes to it. That's one thing on that. And then, as you know, I'm looking at make some changes on how we do maintenance on the road, and how we rebuild roads and improve the roadways. And like I said, that's kind of goes back to that SOP. That's kind of in progress. Made changes, seen it, looked at it, and see what they've done before. I actually was able to be here during part of the road construction season last summer, so I was able to see firsthand what we were doing before. Not that it was wrong, but if there's a better way to do it or a more efficient way to do it, that's what I'm trying to look at.
Describe some of the performance measures you employ in the Road and Bridge Department to define progress and success.
That one's this year's been kind of hard. I mean, it's been kind of difficult because we haven't had a lot of progress because of rains. It's just really, we're just strictly in the last 4 or 5 months, we've been strictly in maintenance mode. Haven't really been able to do a lot of improvements to roadways and like that. We're dealing with, with culverts washed out. We're dealing with potholes. We're dealing with material that's not good material that we're getting from the plants. And with the rain, they're not making good mix anyway. They're not making asphalt until they can produce a certain amount. And so we're tied to those issues or those challenges in those areas like that. But as far as performance, I've set some out there for them to start looking at, and there's some things, like I said, there's some changes that we make, particularly during the summer construction, as far as performance, as far as challenging them is doing more work with what we have. I hope I answered that.
I'm sorry.
I hope I answered that question.
In the summer of 2010, a project review team, former Commissioner Joanne Fleming, Commissioner Joanne Hampton, and HR Director Leonardo Brown, noted in a report to the Commissioners Court the following: several foremen and crew leaders voiced a strong dissatisfaction and frustration and the proficiency and qualifications of new hires. Have you been able to correct this problem? If so, how?
As far as new hires, I'm not sure what they were referring to as talking about new employees that are just because we're looking at a position that sometimes our equipment operator 1 is probably the lowest one, and most of that is you need to operate a truck. And, there's different levels or categories in there, so we're limited with what people want to apply to work for the county. With the oil boom that we've had, a lot of good workers are not available. Or if there's a downturn, they'll come work for us. But as soon as upturn in construction or upturn in oil business, oil construction, they'll leave in a minute because they get a better pay somewhere else. That's as far as I can't answer from 2010 what the situation was. I just know that we're having trouble finding people to work.
And let me just say a little bit, because I was here in 2010. In fact, probably one of the most difficult times a day that I happened to be at the Road and Bridge Department when we had to reduce retirements and things like that needed to be done. It was really more than hostile. It was really, really bad. Some of those people are no longer with the county. They either chose to leave, retire, or whatever. I would say the workforce has improved. Frank wouldn't know that, but I can just tell you it's a sharper ship, I guess is a better way to explain it. And we have still several hundred people apply for every job in Smith County. People are moving in. Frank's exactly right. When you see the work that's going on in Smith County for development, a guy who can drive a dump truck will probably go to work for somebody else first, because immediately he'll make more money. Our benefits are good. They're not where they were, but they're very, very good compared to a lot of things in the private sector. So, as they have to circle back through and look, the HR director is trying to find the best out of the candidates we get. So I would say it's a marked difference. He might not be aware of it so much as some of the people that were here earlier that had really poor attitudes were there to roost, and we're just not a good place to roost right now.
For 20 years or more, there has been a great debate about what the Smith County Road and Bridge Department should be: a public sector road and bridge construction company, or a high-quality department that is proactive in maintaining roads and bridges, that any built by the private sector Are there any built by the private sector? Please describe your philosophy about this and describe how your intent to deliver the very best service at the very best price to the taxpayers.
Okay, on the roads the county maintains, a lot of these roadways, especially subdivisions, those were built by the developers, and they were built by construction companies. They could be bonded and like that, so they're built to the county standards, but they're built to good standards that meet TxDOT, meet statewide. And so when we take over those, we take over the maintenance for that. So we don't build to those standards a lot of times. Or excuse me, we do build to the same standards, but we don't build subdivisions and the like on that. Most of what the construction that we do is road and bridge would be either, majority of our work's going to be maintenance. Whether it be repairing the potholes or cleaning ditches, replacing culverts, trimming trees. That's the majority of the work that we do is that kind of maintenance on roadways. We do during the construction period. We do overlays. We try to address those. We do oil dirt rebuilds. Most of the oil dirt rebuilds are more your rural county roads, areas that not necessarily that have been affected by a lot of development, but we'll do some of those in those areas. And so, most of our work, I see as not being in the past, we have been, in the past, the Road and Bridge Department has built, taken a single lane road and built a 2-lane road. I don't really see us proceeding in the future with that, with this, the capital improvement program. I see us more as maintenance and doing some improvements to some of the roads. Through the maintenance program, we will improve roads through overlays or doing some, drainage improvements for a subdivision. But majority of the road rebuilds, I see that as due through contracts in the future, and it's going to be our responsibility to oversee those contractors and to make sure the contractors are doing it right.
Did you have something, Jeff?
Well, I would just say I think the Commissioners Court would applaud that. You can be real good at one thing and not great at the other. There are some really good major contractors that we can get competitive bids for, and like Frank said, you can get 4 of them working while we've got one team out there working on one road. Spend the money, get the biggest bang you can, and do a competitive bid to get those out. Let Frank and them be the very best maintenance department they can be. There's a lot of small jobs they will do. They've got the equipment to do it, but the big stuff, I think we get more bang for your buck if we bid that out to the competitive market and get it done a whole lot faster.
How much of the operations of Road and Bridge is available to the public via searchable database?
Talking about like check register and things like that. I mean, every dollar, as you know, or should know, hope you know, that we spend is on the check register. It's public knowledge. You can go on there and actually find every penny that is spent out through there. Our fuel is bid. All those type of things are out there. Some of them go through a co-op, so they don't necessarily have to be bid, like tires, things like that. Some of the maintenance parts for things. But I would think it's all there. Salaries there, payrolls there, everything's there. Isn't that?
As far as the work orders for some that were work orders for roadways and stuff, that I'm not aware of that being online, that people can pull it up themselves, but we can provide that information. If somebody wants to see what the work was done on this road or in this area, we can provide that.
Yeah, you could call and ask if you want to know what's on 134, what work's been done the last year there. They could probably just print you off a deal and give you, because we get it periodically. I'll ask what's been done out there, and they'll say, okay, we did this culvert, we did this, blah, 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 and it gives you a date and time and how long they were there.
Are standards readily available to all counties for all types of roads and or bridges?
Yes. Basically, TxDOT standards are available to all the counties. I used them whenever I worked with the cities. Through my consulting business, I worked with cities that didn't have city engineers or engineering staff, and so we utilized TxDOT standards. There's they have not just the specifications, but they also have the standards, the drawings, and like that. Those are available. Matter of fact, you can go to the TxDOT website, and you can download all their, you don't want to do it because there's thousands of sheets of standards for doing construction, anywhere from putting a fence up to building a bridge. So there's all sorts of standards. That's pretty, this TechSite has made that statewide. That's available to counties like that. We utilize those in our work, and then when subdivisions are being built, a lot of times those standards are also TechSite standards. And a lot of cities will incorporate those into their work too. And City of Tyler uses those too.
The estimated county road mileage rebuilt for 2015, and will an inspection result for county roads be published?
On the, I wish I had my file, but I know last year on the older rebuild, these were just going out to the old dirt road and adding more, rejuvenating the road, adding new road oil to it. We did about 16.8 miles. My goal is 25 for this year. A lot of that depends on the weather, because we got to have the heat and the warmth and like that. Sunny weather, do that. The seal coat, I forget how many miles we'll be doing with that, but we have the $600,000 that will be spent. Asphalt overlays, we have, I want to say 7 or 8 miles are included in that. I'd have to go back and check, but we have some of it's limited to the budget as far as what we have. Some of them is, we do have some grants, money that we will do those, submit that, and have that money available at the end of the season to apply to some other roadways. Top of my head, I don't have other than the road oil, I don't have the exact numbers, what we're anticipating to do this year, and I apologize for not having that before me.
Well, Patty, the plan actually, when I talked to Joanne several months ago, we were hoping the Atkins plan would be turned in. But now, I don't know if maybe the rain or weather around the state has thrown them behind, but that will certainly be brought public. I would suppose it would be brought to the Commissioner's Court in the next month. Although I'm not going to get off subject, I will just tell you that anything that pertains to something that's going to be a long-term plan will be brought to the public. Appreciate the opportunity to come there. I'd love to go. And as we did in the jail project, I'm not patting myself on the back, I just think it was done right. Take it out, wear it out, presenting it to people, vet it, see how it works. That doesn't mean everybody's still going to like it. But then put it on the agenda as this progresses. We've talked about the jail. I know the Johnsons over here and the Richardsons, they've heard the jail project every week for 3 years. If there was a change or an upgrade or something we need to change, every week. A lot of times I didn't want to talk about that right then. It wasn't something that was going to be comfortable, but we just put it out there and then deal with it as going. I would hope this is the biggest thing we're looking at and will be for a long time. I hope that, and I feel certain that it will be presented across the community.
Before I ask this, since you brought it up, don't you think you should give an update on what just happened with the jail?
I will. You want me to do that at the very end? I've got a few little quick notes, say about 5 minutes. I'll tell you where that is.
If you must wait until the sand is dry, how do they ever patch a road in areas of Oregon and Washington where it's never dry?
That's a good question. I don't know. It's not so much, a lot of times it's what the materials we get from the plants and like that. Also, we have to wait on them, but we have stockpiles of material that during when it's dry, we make stockpile of oil sand and what they call pug mill plant mix that we have that we utilize because, and we are using that to patch with roads right now, but we'll patch it, and with the rain we have, it'll be back out here in a week or two. We'll go back to some of the same patches and replace those. So we're waiting for better weather so we can get better material that will last longer and stay in place on that. Plants, the northwest where it stays, rains all the time. I can't answer how they do that. I know they work when the 2-3 hours a day it doesn't rain, they're out there. So I know they address it, but I can't really answer as far as what the material they use in that area.
Actually, in this true story. When we were building the jail, we had some concrete that wasn't looking right, I didn't think, and so I was raising Cain with Ray Boudreaux, if you know Ray here, with Brandon Associates. They were our civil engineer on that project. And my wife and I had just gotten back from a trip. And if you've ever seen Hadrian's Wall in Great Britain, it was like the Great Wall of China. It goes across the entire island of Great Britain. And it's still standing. It's like 3,000 years old or something, right? And I'm like, what's the deal, Ray? There's no cracks on Hadrian's Wall up in the middle of Scotland. It rains all the time. He said, well, they had the original recipe. So I don't know what engineering that means, but I thought, whatever, let's find out why that's there. And it didn't crack, and my sidewalk already cracked. We're tearing it up. So.
Okay. To the person that wrote this question, this is not Patty arbitrarily making this decision. I've been told that they agree this falls under what these gentlemen are not allowed to discuss, so I will not be asking this question, and please respect that decision. That's all I have.
Okay. And if somebody wants to talk to me privately after this, I have no problem doing that about any subject, and I'm sure the other commissioners don't either, but I do want to just touch on a couple things real quick. We're going to wrap you up so you can get out of here on time. I could not be more pleased with Frank working for us. You know, commissioners going to come and go, judges come and go, but the policies that you can put in place, and it's embarrassing that it takes as long as it does in government, but it does, and the people that you can hire are critical to us striving for excellence. We have that little card that we put on the table, implemented that about 5 years ago, and if you looked at it, you'll see that, you know, what we ask our employees to do. And a few years ago, I started going to all the new employee orientations, and I tell them, really, we're glad to have you here, but if you're not honest, do it with integrity, then this probably isn't going to be the place for you. And I really mean that. That also counts to us. So we got to step back and look at some of our issues that we may be dealing with right now. But we'll address those and move forward. But I want to point out a few other people that are part of Frank's team that we brought on as leadership in the county. Kim Gould is back. I don't know if some of y'all knew Kim or not. She worked in purchasing. She went to Ellis County, became their purchasing director, has come back, critical job in the county. She just got nominated to serve on the advisory board, the National Advisory Board, which covers all of North America, for a 4-year term. We have a new Veteran Services gentleman who is excellent. That was an area, as more veterans come back and we have more veterans that are aging, we've moved that department down to ground level. It used to be over in the Cotton Belt building, if you know, and we have that now where you drive up just like elections with Karen Nelson, where you have front door parking, which is big in East Texas. You drive up and it makes it much easier for our senior veterans to come in. They're getting excellent service from that department. Karen, as I mentioned, is really just continues to grow in her job as elections coordinator. It's one of those things that she doesn't work directly for us. You're under the spotlight anytime there's an election. You know, it's all going to happen quick, and at that moment, she's very innovative and looking at good ways to provide service, you know, to the citizens. Don Bell is the information technology officer for the county. Like I said, he's implemented about over $3 million worth of new software that. And I'm certainly not a geek. If you want to follow me on Twitter, that's going to be a problem because I don't have a Twitter. I'm not even sure I know what Twitter is. But, you know, he's been able to do that. We were able to build the jail and tie in all the electrical that has to be done without. As you know, we built in an existing jail. The renovations alone took longer than the tower. That's because we didn't ship any inmates out for the construction. I had no idea how complicated that would be 3 years ago, or else I might have chose to do something else. But we have really smart, educated people, like in records, that's important. Joe Satani has a doctorate degree or something in archive science. Didn't know there's such a thing, masters and all kinds of things, but it's very critical that that's done properly. As you know, we've got Leonardo Brown, who now has come on not overhead over HR, but also is acting as a liaison for the court, and I wish he'd been here in that position in July and August. We wouldn't be dealing with some of this we have right now. What I can tell you is that these department heads last year turned back in out of their budgets that were approved almost $4 million. Now let that soak in just a minute. That's a government agency that could have spent every dime of that money. It was in their budget, and they turned it back into the taxpayers. Now, we were able to take 3 of that and put it in Frank, so I hope that we don't want Frank to save any money. He's going to need some more money because he's one of these areas, but we challenge you to look on the back of the front of that card in our purpose statement to say, look for smart, innovative ways to provide our service. you know, that's what we're asking them to do, and they're doing that. There's elected officials doing that. We stumble, we're going to make some mistakes. They're going to make some mistakes along, but we've got to be able to, if we're going to grow, which we're going to be forced to do from a rural county into a more urban county, we've got to be pretty smart in the way we approach it. And when we stumble, it's very visible. It's very embarrassing. You hate to see your name in the paper under anything, especially something that probably could have been avoided, but we'll address it and move on with that. The jail wrap-up, it took years to do it. There's somebody that you know, really, you know, makes web pages or whatever they do. I don't see them, but people tell me what he says, that somehow I wanted to do that. That's absolutely could not be further from the truth. We were under a remedial order for next month will be 11 years. The state standard sets what can go on in a jail, and there's a reason for that. None of us want to spend money on jail. It's kind of like a sewer treatment plant. There's nothing good about that, but you better have the right one. And if you're spending millions of dollars a year shipping inmates to other counties, not only is it dangerous for your inmates, you open yourself up to an awful lot of liability. So I'm thrilled to have that behind us. We just got the release from the state last week, although the project was finished in really into December. Other than just, you know, punch list things, the state can do what the state wants to do, and if they want to come out and inspect it in February or March, then I'll just be happy over that and thank them for the letter. But we are done; it's all functioning. And we made a couple of promises as Commissioner Court. If the public supported that, we'd be as open as possible. I think we met that charge. That it would certainly, you know, improve safety. That was the number one thing. And that we would do everything in our power to reduce the number. If you remember, one of the big complaints that Sharon and everybody always heard was that, oh, well, we'll just fill it up. The day you build it, it'll be full. It gave me a lot of heartburn, made me sick to my stomach. I was hoping they were wrong. So we've done everything with every entity, the DA's office, judges, probation, to find the people to book in as fast as possible that are minor citations, not a danger to you, moving through the system faster. And I can tell you that we're fortunate we have not been booking anybody out of town. We went from 254 average daily out of Smith County that you're bringing back and forth to court. So this costs you a lot of money on those issues. That now we don't have any out of county, and we've got plenty of room to grow. Hopefully, you know, that people behave and not go to jail, but that's realistic, not always going to happen. Frank mentioned that we have appointed for the road plan that Atkins will bring out to us a citizens advisory group. Hopefully, so it will be vetted by just individuals out in the community. They can take it to their friends, community groups, leaders, stuff like that, and say, hey, I think this is a good plan. How it will be funded long term is a discussion for the public. You know, we may be fortunate enough to have enough growth that we can take care of a lot of it right through our budget. But we're lucky to be here. We have one of the lowest tax rates out of 254 counties. I think we're the 21st or 22nd out of 254. You know, when you get your tax statement, everybody lumps the county in with the school district and all those. But if you look down and see how much is actually the county, it's not very large. But I want to thank each one of you for inviting Frank and I and Joanne. I know she's still recovering. Something I really appreciate about you that are friends and critics. You know, you've always been supportive and encouraging, but you've also, when it's time to disagree with me, you certainly don't mind doing that. And I don't mind that. I work for you. We understand that, you know, or I think the majority of us do. I've always owned my own business. I had thousands of people that were clients of mine. I worked for them. I never forgot that. And I think that's helped me. I appreciate you telling me to my face. You know, I really want to respect the people I respect. People on the internet that build blogs or web pages against me, Joanne, whoever the case may be. It's hard to really give them a lot of credibility because if you just disagree with me, all you got to do is tell me you could be right. You know, but if I don't know who you are, it's hard to address those issues. So I don't give them a lot of credibility, but I do appreciate your input. If I'll stick around a little while, and do you have anything else to close with, Frank? Thank y'all so much. Appreciate it. Thank you.